The door slid open without warning. The lights inside the room were dim, uneven, like a failing power source. I was expecting an empty chamber, maybe some broken equipment. Instead, I saw her. She was leaning against the far wall, struggling just to breathe. Her skin had this faint shimmer, not quite human, not quite machine. The sound she made was sharp and shallow, like air scraping through broken glass. I froze. Nothing in my training had prepared me for this moment. I came in expecting to find evidence, data logs, something I could file away. I found a living being on the edge of collapse. For a split second, I actually considered leaving. My contact protocols were crystal clear. No interaction, no assistance, no emotion. But protocols assume stability. They assume you're just an observer, not a witness to a crisis. She looked at me, and her eyes locked with mine. There was fear there, sure, but also calculation. She knew I wasn't one of her kind. She also knew I was her only option. I stepped inside, and the door sealed shut behind me. The room's low hum grew louder, almost as if it was reacting to my presence. Her breathing got worse. I saw markings on her neck, pulsing out of rhythm. Some kind of respiratory regulator was failing. This wasn't an attack. This was an accident, or maybe abandonment. The hook of the moment was simple. If I did nothing, she would die. If I acted, I would change everything. I moved slowly, trying to show I wasn't a threat. I lowered my weapon and placed it on the floor. Her eyes tracked my every move. I spoke, but my words were just noise to her. Sound without context. Still, my voice seemed to steady her breathing for a moment. That told me enough. She was responding to my intention, not my language. This room was part of an abandoned research wing. Human equipment was mixed with alien tech in a way that screamed of a cooperation that was never disclosed. I scanned the walls and saw a cracked conduit leaking energy. The air itself felt wrong, heavy and ionized. That explained her condition. Her species needed a different atmospheric balance. She was suffocating in a room built on a compromise. I crossed the space and inspected the device embedded near her collarbone. It was damaged, but not destroyed. I didn't have any tools designed for this. I had to use what I had. A standard field kit, a power coupler, and a whole lot of guesswork. I aligned the coupler and rerouted energy directly from the leaking wall conduit. The moment I made contact, the room's lights flared. She gasped deeply and collapsed to her knees. Breath returned to her, but her strength was gone. I caught her just before she hit the floor. Her body was lighter than I expected, and warmer than mine. This wasn't a monster or an invader. This was a person stranded a long, long way from home. That idea hit me harder than any top-secret briefing I'd ever read. We were not alone, and we were not being honest about it. She pushed away slightly, testing the boundaries. I let her go. She stood on her own, a bit unsteady. With slow, deliberate movements, she touched the device at her neck, then pointed to the door. She wanted out. Staying here would eventually kill her, even with my temporary fix. I knew the corridors beyond were monitored. Cameras, sensors, automated defenses. Walking her out would trigger every alert on the station. Carrying her would be even worse. I had to make a choice I couldn't take back. I disabled the local sensors using an override code meant only for emergency drills. The system accepted it without a fight. That told me something important. This exact scenario had been anticipated. We moved through the hallway, step by step. Her breathing normalized as the air quality improved. She studied everything with this sharp, intense focus. When we reached the main exit junction, she stopped. She placed her hand flat against the wall, and the surface shifted, revealing a hidden interface that responded to her touch. This facility had layers that even we didn't know about. She turned to me and spoke, not with sound, but with images and intent projected straight into my mind. A brief, stunning transmission of meaning. She had been part of an exchange program, a secret cooperation between our species. But something went wrong. Funding was cut. Political pressure mounted. The program was shut down, and she was left behind a liability too dangerous to explain and too inconvenient to rescue. Her breathlessness wasn't just physical. It was the crushing weight of abandonment. We reached an external airlock leading to the surface. Night. Night had fallen. The stars were brilliant through the transparent shield. So looked up, and her entire posture changed. Strength flowed back into her. She placed a small object in my hand, a data crystal, smooth and warm to the touch. It was proof, not for me to expose, but for the record. For a history where the truth could finally survive. She stepped back into the airlock and sealed it from her side. Through the glass, she met my eyes one last time. There was no gratitude. Only acknowledgement. Then, a brilliant flare of light, and she was gone. The alarms finally triggered. Seconds later, I stood there, alone, holding evidence that could rewrite everything we thought we knew. I reported an equipment failure and a full sensor cascade. The official log accepted my report. Again, no resistance. In the days that followed, the entire wing was permanently sealed off. Files were buried deeper. Personnel were reassigned. Officially, she never existed. But I remembered, and the crystal remains where I hid it. Waiting. The conclusion is simple. Contact already happened. Cooperation already failed. The alien girl was breathless, not because her body was weak, but because truth cannot survive inside sealed rooms. I didn't save a mystery. I witnessed a mistake. Thanks for listening. If stories like this make you think, consider subscribing for more.